So, Ernesto, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate giving you giving us your time. Obviously, Mimecast have put together a couple of really amazing white papers around ransomware, and I just thought it'd be really nice to kind of ask you a couple of questions about that and kind of get a little bit more insight into what ransomware is all about. So, Ernesto, for those of you that don't know, is one of the technical specialists at Mimecast. Mimecast are one of our market-leading vendors that we've been working with for many, many years at Concise Solutions. Ernesto, do you want to just explain a little bit more about your background and kind of your experience in cybersecurity?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Before I joined Mimecast, I was a consultant, an IT consultant for quite a few years. And so I've helped a lot of organizations build their IT systems, including their security, but also the systems themselves. And since I've joined Mimecast, I'm a technical specialist, but I'm also known as the Mimecast teacher. I help people understand what we do and how it works.
Brilliant. So a very, very valuable member of the team for sure. So Ernesto, so as I mentioned before, you guys have put together two really, really good white papers, one of which is to pay or not to pay, and it's ransomware has become the board's biggest concern. And the other one, which we're going to kind of elaborate a little bit more on kind of in this chat, is 10 ways to prevent ransomware attacks. So with that in mind, what do you think organizations can do to help protect themselves from ransomware attacks?
So I think you need to look at different phases of an attack. They're reflected in the NIST cybersecurity framework or the Lockheed Martin cyber kill chain. And it comes down to kind of stuff that happens before the attack, during the attack, in the dwell time and after the attack. And in a piece of research that we've recently launched, the State of Email Security Report, we found that 64% of victims felt compelled to pay a ransom when they got that note. But 30% of people didn't get their data back. So you want to avoid that ransom note if possible. And so if we look at those phases before the attack, you start with analyzing your weaknesses and your risks, and then apply your cyber tactics where they're most effective. So 90% of phishing attacks, for example, occur through email. Now, if that's you as an organization, then obviously you're going to focus there. But if you already have email security in place that avoids most of those attacks, and the ones that make their way through to your organization come in through, say, Teams, which we also see an increase in, then focus your time there. And what types of attacks are they? Are they targeted at your organization specifically, or are they run-of-the-mill kind of spray and pray attacks? Are they zero-day attacks that you're dealing with, shadow IT, brand abuse? All different kind of things that need a different approach. Look for trends throughout the year as well. Typically around Black Friday and Christmas, you've got specific types of attacks. Around elections, geopolitical events that we're right in the middle of. Stay up to date with which ransomware types are trending. Read reports. Then you go into hardening your systems. So you can buy software, cybersecurity software, but it needs to be configured and managed to be effective. And also be kept up to date. So patch your systems as well. So those are your systems. Also train your end users, which is they need to be able to identify the hallmarks of an attack and what to do in case kind of you suspect that you've made a mistake. As humans, we have a tendency to hide our tracks, right? But we need to promote openness as an organization. If you do some of these things, then kind of what you do is you almost make another target the lower hanging fruit for those attackers. So the better return on investment for the attacker. So if you've done everything before the attack well, then during the attack, it's about monitoring and adapting and staying vigilant. I think that's what organizations can do to help protect themselves from ransomware attacks.
Okay, so that all makes sense. So kind of what you were kind of leading on to then, what would you advise organizations do in the actual event of an attack happening?
Yeah, so now we go into that dwell time and after the attack. So in the dwell time, the attacker is in your system, but they haven't pressed that kill switch yet. And attackers are trying to get a foothold in your organization that pivot. It's called pivoting from one system to the next system. And quite often when you read like news articles about cyber attacks, you'll read that criminals were in that system for 3 months already. Now assume that they're in, right? Hunt for threats. It's all about early detection and early remediation. It's zero trust. Okay, they got into your system. Now, how do we get them out? API and system integrations help with these kind of things as well. If we move to after the attack and assume that that will happen as well, at some point you're going to get that ransom note. Don't be the company that goes bankrupt, right? Make sure you separate out your networks. Again, that's part of like zero trust. Make sure that you have a working and tested and separated business continuity solution in place, something to fall back to. Make sure that you have a working and tested disaster recovery solution in place as well, a separated and immutable archive with preferably a different set of keys to your normal systems, and an easy to use cloud-to-cloud sync option to speed up the process during what's probably a very difficult time for an organization dealing with an attack. So that's what I think you can do kind of in the event of an attack.
That's brilliant. And so thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It's great to hear from actual, like a human perspective of what to do in this kind of instance. And like I mentioned already, Mimecast, you guys have put together some really, really interesting white papers on ransomware. It's a huge trending topic. It has been for a very long time, but even more so at the moment. So we will make sure that these are advertised and people can find out some more information by reading these white papers. And we look forward to more information coming from Mimecast and insights very, very soon.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.